Hi YouTube! It's time to talk about the mountain you get to climb before you go to Japan, or any study abroad country, the mountain of paperwork. I thought I had prepared myself for how much paperwork there was. I hadn't. So hopefully this will help you. In October, November, and December I had to do passport application and the first round of applying to international programs to study abroad in Japan. The passport application I filled out on paper and sent it in via snail mail. The application for IP was done online. In February and March, the paperwork that I was doing was applying directly to Waseda University. They sent that paperwork before I got accepted officially by IP. So the Waseda University application was pretty straightforward. It came with instructions. With the instructions, it was pretty easy to fill out. But I also, with the same pack, got sent a student visa form from the Japanese government. That was a little harder. It was all in Japanese rather than in English, and even though I got instructions in English, there were still parts that I wasn't quite sure on. I asked for help from my study abroad advisor, and together we guessed a couple of things. Student visa was probably the hardest to fill out because it was all in Japanese with lots of complicated kanji that I didn't know and couldn't really look up because there wasn't any furigana on it. So after February and March, paperwork was done. Then came the April paperwork. April was awesome because I finally got accepted officially to go to Japan, so I was like, yay, I'm going! But it was also like, So like I said before, I thought I'd prepared myself for how much paperwork I had to do. I wasn't. There were two packets. One was 50 pages and one was 100 pages. The 50-page packet was forms I had to fill out and instructions on those forms. So that wasn't hard so much as it was time-consuming. And the reason it was like, was because all of the paperwork was due by May 1st. And I was also having my finals the first week of May. So that semester I got to do study abroad paperwork, final papers and projects, and doing a bunch of studying like the last week and a half to 2 weeks before finals, so I was like pulling my hair out all the time. Now for the 100-page packet, this wasn't hard. It was just boring, kind of. It was 100 pages of teeny tiny print, important information, but it wasn't interesting. It was just stuff like rules, what to do, what not to do. You're responsible for following all of the Japanese laws, blah blah blah, stuff like that. What would happen if you did anything so bad that you had to be brought home for something that wasn't like an injury or whatever. So it was really important to read it, but it took a while to get through. After that, all the important paperwork's filled out. You get on a plane, you fly to Japan, and you've made your necessary living arrangements, so you're all set. Yay! No, you're not. After arriving in Japan, I had more paperwork to fill out, which, looking back on it, was kind of obvious, but I wasn't really thinking. I was just really excited to go to Japan. So within the first few days and weeks of being in Japan, there was a bunch of other paperwork I had to fill out. There was the Waseda orientation, that was school stuff. And then there was living arrangement stuff. There was another orientation for that because, you know, rules and regulations of the dorm. Paying first and last month's rent, setting up your bank account so you could do direct deposit for paying the monthly rent. And then there was stuff I had to fill out for the government it's like, hey, I live here, and applying for national health insurance because you live in Japan, you get national health insurance. There's just a lot of paperwork all around. But then, after the first month, everything was done. I had turned everything in to where it needed to go. I was set. And I thought I wouldn't have to fill out any more, super important paperwork for the rest of the time I was there. Oh, I wish. So, it turns out, in Japan, regardless of whether or not you have an income, you have to file taxes. never had to do that here in America, but in Japan, everyone has to file taxes because of the national health insurance. Your national health insurance monthly payment is based on your income. It's a long process from the applications to the after you get accepted paperwork to the getting to the foreign country and filling out all of that paperwork. It's a lot, and I wasn't prepared for it, and maybe helping yourself mentally prepare for the sheer amount of paperwork you'll be doing will help you not stress like I was. Let's call it things to keep in mind when you're doing the paperwork. 1. Be aware of deadlines. I ended up turning in a lot of paperwork basically the day it was due, like right before the cutoff. Not a good idea. 2. Be prepared to write a lot of the same information down a dozen times. 3. Be prepared for hand cramps and crying. A lot of this paperwork can't be done on the computer. You have to write it out. So, and when you're like, when you're rushing, hand cramps happen. At least they happen to me. 4. The application process is a cakewalk compared to all the paperwork you do after getting accepted. It's like this much to apply, this much when you get accepted. Maybe more. Yeah, a lot. 5. There will also be paperwork when you get back to America as well. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. Number 6. None of what I've talked about so far includes the scholarships. That's the next video that I'll be doing. Sama-sama out.